Any health-related information on the following show provides general information only. Content presented on any show by any host or guest should not be substituted for a doctor's advice. Always consult your physician before beginning any new diet, exercise, or treatment program.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Inspired and Empowered Living TV show and podcast for a thriving life and business. We are live on Thursdays at 5 p.m. Eastern on talk4tv.com, w4wn.com, and my YouTube channel. And today we have an exciting episode called The Hidden Psychology Behind Repeating Relationship Patterns in Life and Business. And today we do part one, why the same relationship patterns keep showing up. Have you ever found yourself in a different relationship, but somehow you're experiencing the same challenges, the same emotions, or the same outcomes as previous relationships? And whether it's your personal life or your business, clients, colleagues, or partners, these repeating patterns are not random. They are often driven by deeper unconscious dynamics that influence who you attract, how you respond, and what you will allow. So today, we're going to go deeper into understanding those relationship patterns, which often begin below the level of conscious awareness, and how they shape your expectations of connection, trust, and safety, and the role that subconscious beliefs have on the relationships you attract. Why you're often drawn to what feels familiar, even when it doesn't serve you, and how repeating patterns not only show up in your personal relationships, but will also show up in business and client dynamics. And also know today we'll talk a little bit about self-worth and the relationships you will allow or tolerate. So this episode is about recognizing your patterns with greater clarity and compassion, because once you understand the pattern, you can begin to take your power back, and together, let's create a life you love. I'm your host, Nancy Deutsch, licensed clinical social worker, certified hypnotherapist, and an intuitive business expert, combining my counseling, coaching, and intuitive abilities to transform your life. This show is not a replacement for therapy or counseling. It's for educational purposes only. So first, before we jump in to more of today's show, we're going to talk. I want to answer a question from last week's show. Mickey had asked, how can you tell if it's past, relived, or actual current time? So we were talking about reactions that you have, and how you can react in current time. So what I'm going to say to all of you is, as I answer Mickey's question, is the way that you know if that you're getting triggered from your past in a current relationship, or if it's something that's current, is how intense is your emotional reaction? If your emotional reaction is pretty intense, then it's definitely a trigger from your past. If your emotional reaction is you're feeling a little angry, frustrated, annoyed, that kind of thing, but it's not intense, more than likely it's a trigger from present time relationship. But I do want you to know that most of the time you're triggered, there's something there for you to look at, some kind of message that would be really important for you to know about. And then Mickey says, today's going to be a good show. That was last week, but today she was looking forward to today. So I look forward to hearing all about what your comments and questions are, all of you that are listening live. And you can always type in questions on YouTube. Tag me, and I am happy to answer your questions either now or later. So let's dive in to today's segment. So let's talk about, and what I really want to remind you is this is not about judging yourself. This is not about beating yourself up. What's most important is that you're gaining awareness, because once you understand the pattern, you can begin to take your power back. So, what are repeating patterns? So, repeating patterns are you have similar emotional experiences across different people and situations. So, for example, if you find yourself in relationships, and this could be personal and professional, whether if it's a professional relationship or a business relationship, it could be a client, it could be a colleague, a business partner. If you are feeling undervalued, or you're undervaluing yourself, which will affect how you price your programs, how you price your work in the world. If it's a personal that you don't, do you feel worthy, deserving of being heard, being seen? So if you're feeling undervalued, repeating relationship pattern, or maybe you're an overgiver. If you tend to find yourself in relationships, and again, relationships, it can be impersonal, but I will tell you, when you have a repeating pattern, your repeating pattern will show up in all your relationships. It will show up in your personal, and it will show up in your business. So the more that you can gain the awareness, the more you can start shifting it. Or maybe you're attracting unavailable people, unavailable partners, unavailable clients. They say they're going to show up, or they just don't even commit, and you get really frustrated with your clients or your relationships, or it could be friends, it could be colleagues. So when you're attracting unavailable people, or you find yourself in relationships where you feel unseen, unheard, and not respected. So, what I want to remind you is that it's not about the specific person, it's about your pattern. And your pattern is internally driven but then it gets expressed externally in your life and in your relationships. And I will tell you, when you have those repeating patterns, usually it not only shows up in relationships, but it can show up in other areas of your life as well. And so, like, for example, in your business, those same dynamics can keep showing up in your pricing, in your boundaries, in your client attraction, in your personal life. Again, boundaries, boundaries, boundaries. Boundaries are across the board, personal and professional. So important. So important. So we have a question from Misty. Misty asks, how do we notice it is blending between personal and business? So, and I'm gonna answer this, Misty, but if I'm not, because I'm not totally clear on the question, but what I'm thinking you're saying, and please, if I'm not clear in the way that I'm communicating the answer, you can clarify. Please feel free to clarify your question. So when you say, how do you notice if it's blending between personal and business? What you will notice is that you find yourself in patterns where you continually feel, let's say, undervalued. And like, I'll give you an example. Like in your personal life, what happens is you may be in a relationship, and it could be a romantic relationship, or it could be a friendship, and they're not valuing your time. They're not valuing your energy. They're not valuing your opinions or what you give to them. You feel disregarded or dismissed. And how that would show up in business is you may not, well, what's happening is you may not end up feeling valued. Okay, Misty says, yes. How do you know if it's the same patterns or in both personal and business? So it's going to feel similar, feel the same. So, for example, with the undervalued, maybe you want to charge, like, you feel that you should get more money, but you're not in your business. You're undervaluing yourself. Or and here's the thing, you may tend to attract clients or colleagues that are not valuing your time, your energy, what you have to give. And so what ends up happening is you'll see that undervalued is showing up in both your personal and your business. So hopefully that is helpful. And if you need more, let me know. Because I will tell you, the bottom line is the pattern is going to show up again and again. And the most important thing is, again, no judgment of self. The most important thing is that awareness, like, oh, look, the pattern's happening in my business. Oh, the pattern's happening in my personal relationship. I'll get to you in a second, Nikki. So that's what ends up happening. And it's about that awareness. So that's what I really want to support all of you in remembering. So, okay, let's go to Mickey's question. So hopefully, Misty, that helps you. And if you have anything else around that, let me know. Mickey asks, do you find most people don't even realize these patterns are existing? Mickey, I will say yes. A lot of times, and that's why I wanted to do this show, is because a lot of you out there may not even be aware that, oh, this is a pattern I have in my life. And I'm doing this show so that you can connect the dots, so that you can start being aware, like, oh, this pattern is showing up in my personal life. Oh, this pattern is showing up in my business and my personal life. It's across the board. I need to do something about it. So the answer is yes. Many people, and you may become aware that something's going on, but you may not notice the patterns. Very often when I'm working with my clients, this is what I do is I help them to connect the dots. I help you to be able to discover, oh, that's a repeating pattern. And I point it out and make it really clear so that you or they, clients, can take action and start to take action. And we also work on the deeper levels, which I'm about to talk about. So let me do my Psych 101 so we're all on the same page. You have your conscious mind, which conscious mind of yours, thank you for tuning in. You made that conscious awareness and decision to be here, whether you're live or at a later time. Thank you, conscious mind. I acknowledge you and grateful that you're here. Your conscious mind, when you empower yourself, you're making very conscious, clear decisions. However, your subconscious or unconscious mind, I'm putting them together. What happens is that mind of yours, your subconscious, unconscious mind, is the part of you from the moment you were conceived to present time that's recorded every moment, every limiting belief and emotion, limiting emotions, limiting beliefs that create those repeating patterns. And they're unconscious. That's why I want to do this show. That's why I really want to support you in gaining the awareness. That's the first step towards breaking those repeating patterns. So congratulations you for being here. So that part, it's really, and I will tell you, your subconscious, unconscious mind is ruling the show when it comes to the repeating patterns until you start becoming aware and then start working on them to clear them and to heal them so that the next time the pattern surfaces, you can then make conscious, aware decisions and choices of whether, like, it's finding those red flags like we were talking about last show. It's finding those red flags and making choices of what you need to do to take care of you. So what happens? How does that unconscious mind? So remember, your unconscious mind, it's you attracting. What happens is your conscious mind is saying, this is what I want. I want to attract this. But what happens is that you're actually attracting what's familiar, not what you want, because it's unconscious, below your conscious awareness. And that's why it becomes a repeating pattern. If you've never done any kind of work to stop the pattern, interrupt the pattern, change the pattern, it will continue to repeat. And that goes not only for relationships, for All patterns around money, patterns around health, patterns around life experiences. All, it's that familiar pattern that you get into. And what happens is what rules is the emotional memory, not logical thinking. And you may know better and you may say, I'm going to do better. But if you haven't healed the pattern, then you'll make the same choices. And that's why awareness is crucial and the first step in shifting those subconscious patterns. And Mickey asks, do we have any way to control the subconscious? So, the best way to, I would say it's not about controlling. The best way to shift and to heal and to change the patterns is the awareness, is doing the awareness piece. And then it's about shifting the pattern. And we're going to be talking more about how to make those shifts in the next week's show. So, and I also want to tell you, this is the work, so much of the work that I'm doing with my clients is we're working on that subconscious, unconscious level, helping them to become aware and then helping them to shift it. Really crucial, makes such a huge difference. So, your early experiences and your early conditions are creating those patterns. So, your early life experiences create these relationship patterns from your parents, caregivers, authority figures, early environments. Like I've had many clients where they have had patterns, relationship patterns, and it may come from their parents or caregivers, or it may come from school, teachers, principals, religious figures. And they form those patterns and they will continue to play out in your life. And I will also say both negatively and positively. So when you have a negative example, like I'm going to give you the example of the Jenny and Jimmy. Now, Jenny had an abusive father. So, and she didn't, Jimmy was a rager and would scream and yell at her. So he was emotionally abusive. He wasn't, her father was emotionally and physically abusive. So she actually did better with Jimmy, but we needed to work and help her get to the next level. And of course we work with Jimmy too. So Jimmy was able, and he had experiences from his mother and felt very controlled by his mother. So we worked with Jimmy and being able to help him be able to change his patterns. And when I worked with both of them together, it was powerful because I worked with them individually and then as a couple, and they started changing those patterns and they helped each other and supported each other to change the patterns. So what happens is from those early experiences, your beliefs about love, about trust, about safety, about your worthiness get formed. And like, for example, you may look for love And and the way that you do it is you want to be approved of. So maybe you're people pleasing. Like you'll do anything to get that approval so that you get that love. A potential example. And again, I also want you to know this is awareness, and it's also a process to change the patterns. It's not like poof, all of a sudden your patterns are changed. It's a journey. It's a journey. Or another example, safety. In order for you to feel safe, you'll avoid conflict. And you'll do it in your personal relationships, you'll do it in your business. And what ends up happening is it ends up hurting you in the end. Or you feel like you need to overperform in order to feel worthy, to feel deserving. And if you feel undervalued, you can keep on giving and giving, the overgiver, and then you never feel like you're getting seen, you're getting heard. So all of these ends up hurting your personal life and your business. Undercharging, people pleasing in your business, the fear of visibility. And what I want you to remember is this is not about being broken. This is about you noticing the patterns. Noticing the patterns. All right, we have more questions coming in. So Anastasia says, what if you think you made a shift, but you revert back? How long does it take to stick to the new change? So here's the thing. It's about going into that subconscious, unconscious mind of yours to make that shift. Now, you can think that you made the shift, and because you're becoming more conscious, more aware of the pattern, like you're seeing the red flag or you're seeing the pattern, and you say to yourself on a conscious level, I'm changing that pattern. I'm not going to do it anymore. I'm not doing it anymore. And then what happens? You find yourself doing it again and doing it again. And you say, I'm not going to do it anymore. And then you do it again. So again, I want you to remember, first thing is the awareness. The second thing is that deeper level of change that needs to happen in the subconscious mind. So awareness, now it also depends on the pattern. For some of you, you may be able to change the pattern more easily. It depends on how deep the pattern is ingrained in your subconscious mind. And if, let's say, you've worked on it, you may come to another level, and now you need another level of shift. So I also want you to know that it's also like layers of an onion, a process. So, and a lot of times I will tell you, and I tell my clients this all the time, is that when you are ready to make an energetic shift, like imagine that you are on a spiral of healing. Okay. Imagine that you're on this spiral of healing, and whether it's your personal life or your business, but energetically, you're ready to make a shift, which will affect everything in your life, both personal and business and professional. And you go and you think that you've healed it. And then you start noting little subtle signs, or you notice the signs. Now, I also want you to know that you may have healed it at one level, and it's coming up again because you are ready to go to another level of it, to make a bigger, deeper shift. So it's really important to keep noticing, keep becoming aware, and know that It's seeing how, if you've made the new change, what's happening, becoming that aware. Yes, I've been able to make the change, or I still need some kind of work, help, support in being able to make that change. And that's where I come in. That's why I help my clients. Most of you may need some kind of outside support. Now, you may be able to do it by yourself, but a lot of times it's about noticing the pattern and then being able to go deeper into the healing of the pattern so that you start making that shift into where you want to be, not where you are. So, and how long does it take to stick to the new change? Again, if it's one level, if it's more conscious and you haven't cleared the energy that needs to be cleared, it may go back. Like, here's the thing. What I really want you to know is that as you gain the awareness and as you shift it, you are probably shifting it and getting better. But if you want to go even deeper, that's where you need the support, or the deeper level support. When you get that deeper support, or when you go into that subconscious, unconscious mind of yours, and you start changing it, that's when you'll start seeing the more and more of the changes. So, Anastasia, hopefully that helps you. And if you have any other questions about that, please let me know. I know you have another question. I will get to that other question shortly. Okay. So first, I want to share one of the ways that I help you to grow is I do a masterclass. This is for women, coaches, therapists, nurses, holistic professionals. And I have a masterclass next Wednesday night, March 25th, I believe it is. Confidence, clarity, and clients. Attract your holistic clients and increase your income. And we're going to go deeper into helping you to understand what you need to do to make the changes, those deeper changes on a soul level. So gaining soul level clarity, learning how to increase your income without overwhelm and without overworking, and create more momentum with ease and consistency. And yes, it's next Wednesday, March 25th, 7 to 8 p.m. Eastern. And I want to support and let you know that you can click the link, and it's inspiredandempoweredliving.com masterclass, not meditation. Masterclass. Yep, that one. inspiredandempoweredliving.com/masterclass. So I invite you to join us. And I will definitely be going deeper into helping you to make those shifts that you need to make in order to increase your income and attract the right clients to you. So join us next week. Okay, so we had Anastasia. Anastasia asked, how do we know if our love language is compatible with another person? The best way, first of all, let me describe what Anastasia means about love language. There was actually a book about the 5 love languages. Now, love languages, and I don't know all 5 offhand right now, But examples of a love language, like some of you need that love by being acknowledged and by being being valued and verbally receiving acknowledgement, while others of you need that love by spending time with the other person. Another love language is gifts and being able to, like, that you feel like you are being loved when you get gifts from the other person. So that's what is a love language. Now, how do you know, or how can you be compatible with another person? It's really, here's the thing. If something needs discussing, communication, because if you're not feeling valued, heard, seen, loved, then in order for you to have a better personal relationship, then you need to be able, one, to understand what your pattern is, and then be able to communicate to the other person. And what happens is, as the two of you communicate, then change can happen. You can work together so that you feel more seen, more heard, more understood. Now, if it's a business, you're going to keep it simpler. You're not going to go, obviously, into deep detail of what's going on for you on a personal level, but you'll communicate if you're not feeling. I've had to do that with clients where I have had to talk to them about the payments, or I've had to talk to them about time. That's the boundary thing. And it's really important in your business that you be able to communicate. So whether it's personal or business, communication is key to be able to have more compatibility. Listen, here's the thing. Even if your love languages are different in romantic relationships or even in a friendship, because it says love, but love is friendship. And also those patterns can, similar, not totally, go into other relationships as well. And it's about communicating. And the more that you can communicate, the better ability it is to work through it. So let's go back. So again, these are the patterns. So here, the familiarity trap. We repeat even though it doesn't serve us in present time. What happens is the brain prefers familiar over healthy. And it's because even though the pattern is not healthy, it is familiar. It's what you've learned. It's predictable. And amazingly enough, even if it's a dysfunctional, unhealthy pattern, there is a part of you that perceives this as safe. And that's why it's important to become aware so that you can do something different. So, for example, like, you may attract similar personality types repeatedly. People who are maybe abusive in some way. Like I was talking about Jenny and Jimmy. Now, Jenny's first relationship, she totally repeated a pattern where there was being some physical, like what happened with her father, physical abuse. And then she was able to leave that, but she was still stuck in a pattern but she was able to meet Jimmy, who wouldn't physically hurt her, but he was emotionally abusive until they started changing the dynamics. So you can create a similar personality. And here's the thing, in business, that can happen too. I have heard many a client, oh, my boss is abusive, or I just met this person and I want to connect with them and become colleagues and referral partners. And then you find out there's a lot of dysfunction in there. So that's why it's really important to start watching those red flags. And so it's really important for you to become aware. So think about what feels familiar in your relationships. And what's so interesting is that growth often feels unfamiliar and not safe. And so what's going to be really important is learning to tell that mind of yours, this new way feels safe. It's safer. And part of the work I do is helping to bring that energy of safety in. So there is more. So what we're going to do, lots more to explore. So what we're going to do is I am going to continue with this part and start moving into the next part next show. And the next show is learning to understand why these patterns keep showing up and how do you break them. Awareness is powerful, but awareness alone doesn't change the pattern. So we're going to go deeper in how you can interrupt, shift, and transform these patterns so that you can stop repeating these same dynamics in your relationships and in your business. And so you definitely want to join us for part 2 next week. And so we are live on Thursdays at 5 p.m. Eastern on talk4tv.com, w4wn.com, and my YouTube channel. And you can hear the podcast 24/7 on iHeartRadio, Spotify, Pandora, Apple, Amazon, and many more. And so join us next week for more on the hidden psychology of repeating relationship patterns in your life and business, part 2. And I want to wish you all an inspired and empowered week, day, and evening. And remember, you can join me for my masterclass next Wednesday at Inspired and Empowered Living Masterclass. And I look forward to connecting with you more next week. Have an inspired and empowered week again. Bye.